Hey everybody, and welcome back to Hard Ticket, the show where we go to the movies expecting a double feature, only to find that both movies are playing at the exact same time. So now we have a hard ticket to choose between the two. I'm Jeffrey Bogus.
And I'm Tristan Moore.
And joining us today, we have a familiar guest. Say hi, familiar guest.
Hi, familiar guest.
Yay.
It's Scrambled, Letterboxd user Scrambled.
Yay.
How have you been?
I'm good. It's been a little while since the last one. Most of my work on this show saying producing makes it sound like I have a big role in this show, but I really don't. My version of producing for this show is just coming up with two movies that have something in common and then posting it on the Discord server. But I mean, this case of producing is a little bit special because I don't know if you know this, but I suggested the idea of Spielberg Summer, which is what we are doing, and this is an episode as a part of that special lineup.
That's true. Scrambled has claimed ownership over Spielberg Summer, which, you know what, we're going to give it to them. They deserve it. So it was only fitting that we had them on, and this was a matchup specifically that they suggested. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Tristan to introduce us to option number A for this week.
Yeah, option number A, continuing Spielberg Summer, is Steven Spielberg's 2018 blockbuster film Ready Player One. It stars Ty Sheridan, Olivia Cooke, Ben Mendelsohn, Lena Waithe, T.J. Miller, Simon Pegg, Mark Rylance. Lots of people in this film. What is Ready Player One about? It's set in the future, I'm going to say dystopia of 2045. We're in Columbus, Ohio, which is the fastest growing city on the planet. Everybody lives in, they're like skyscrapers, but they're made out of trailers. They're called the stacks. Basically, nobody does anything in the real world anymore. Everybody just lives online in a virtual reality game called The Oasis, which is basically just this open world game where the money is real. If you die, you lose all your money. We've all transferred our consciousnesses over to the digital world, basically. The premise of the film is that the creator of the Oasis has died and left 3 keys within the game that if you collect these keys, you own the Oasis, effectively making you the most powerful person on the planet, or, God, basically. So it comes down to a plucky band of gamers versus Ben Mendelsohn Sorrento, who is the CEO of the second most powerful corporation on the planet, who is trying to gain control of the Oasis to effectively just monetize it to hell and back. It was a 2018 movie. People saw it. Lots of people have opinions about it. I will say, just starting off this conversation, this was my lowest rated Steven Spielberg film when I first watched it 8 years ago. So I'm curious to see for myself, like, what has changed, and I'm very curious to hear how you all have perceived this film.
Ready Player One, based on the novel by Ernest Cline.
I have it right here.
Have you read this?
I remember reading a bit of it in secondary school, but giving up because of how hateable the main character's inner monologue was. Like, if you read this book, the inner monologue of Wade, the main character, is the same as the most annoying, smug Reddit moderator you have ever interacted with. It's probably the most annoying main character I have ever read in any book ever.
I've heard that the novel is, one, controversial, two, that it hasn't aged well either. So that's not surprising for me to hear. But I think Cline comes back to co-write on the screenplay as well. And he co-writes with Zach Penn, who is actually sort of we didn't realize this when we did the matchup, but he is a co-writer on both of this week's movies, Ready Player One and option number B, Free Guy. This is a 2021 sci-fi comedy starring Ryan Reynolds as Guy, an NPC in Free City, which is a game. I guess it's a PC game. It's huge. It's like a big sensation. It's like Fortnite meets Grand Theft Auto, basically.
Yeah, it reminded me most of Grand Theft Auto Online.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So Guy's an NPC. And then he he comes across this girl, Molotov girl, also Millie Rusk in real life, played by Jodie Comer, who is looking for something in Free City. She's actually looking for evidence of code that she and her business partner, Joe Keery, who plays the character Keys, made and sold. They made an AI engine, sold it to Taika Waititi's Antoine, but Antoine also took their code for a game that they never made and incorporated it into Free City. So they're trying to find evidence that this game exists and that they can create some really special AI thing that just so happens to be prevalent in Guy, because his program starts becoming a lot more complex after he meets Molotov Girl, and he begins wondering, like, who are all these people in Free City that are wearing sunglasses and seem to be like the heroes? They're getting in helicopters, they're stealing cars. I just work at the bank that gets robbed every 5 minutes. So what am I doing with my life? And it culminates in Antoine escalating his attempts to suppress Key and Millie's search and lawsuit against him. And Guy plays a pivotal part, because once gamers in the real world start realizing that this NPC has been going against his programming, he becomes a international sensation. Everybody's talking about Blue Shirt Guy. So I guess that's sort of the loose plot summary there. Zach Penn co-writes with Matt Lieberman, who wrote the original script and a bunch of crap on top of that, known for Scoob, Search for SquarePants, and the 2019 Addams Family reboot movie.
We're talking about the height of cinema here.
Whereas Zach Penn was a co-writer on X2, Elektra, X-Men The Last Stand, The Incredible Hulk, The Avengers. He's done a lot of superhero stuff. So his collaboration with director Sean Levy seems inevitable. Sean Levy, maybe you know him for... Which Deadpool did he do? Was it the first one?
Deadpool and Wolverine.
He did the third one, but that was after this. But I mainly know him for the Night at the Museum trilogy, because I absolutely loved Night at the Museum as a kid. And I would argue that, much like how with the Russo brothers, their only good films are Marvel movies, the only good Sean Levy films are Night at the Museum movies.
I am not here to contest that, so we'll leave it up to our listeners to decide. But without further ado, this is Freddy Guy 1.
It's better than Freddy Gayer 1, which was the original proposed title.
That was Tristan. That was Tristan's proposal.
Freddy Gayer 1 is so funny, but I knew it wasn't going to fly.
Since we're in season 2 and we had you on season 1 last time, Scrambled, you get to do your first log line.
Yay! Okay, here is my log line. In a dystopian near future where the populace of the world are glued to a hugely popular pop culture referencing online MMO, one man must infiltrate a sinister megacorporation, find the secrets the developer left inside the game, fall in love with a rebellious alternative girl, and free the world from capitalism by celebrating capitalism. Wait, what?
That's really good.
That's great.
That's a really good one. Tristan, before you read it, did you call her an e-girl or an alternative girl?
I did. Mine is way less specific. Mine was just like more general. No, I don't think I could beat Scrambled. I almost feel like we should just scrap the segment, scrap the episode, Jeff. I think we're done here.
Well, thanks for listening, everybody. No, Tristan, read yours now.
All right, my log line is: a greedy CEO threatens to destroy an open world paradise by monetizing it. The only person who can stop him is a true gamer and his friends, and awkward appeals to nostalgia.
That's good. Yeah, that is a broader but still incredibly accurate summary of these two movies.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff. Back to you. Okay. Thank you, NPC. Here's mine. A protagonist stops doing the same thing every day when, in his virtual reality world, he meets an e-girl with an agenda to take down a corrupt corporate executive bent on replacing this digital utopia with the reality that paves over everything they know and love, including a hidden treasure somewhere in this labyrinthian code.
Labyrinthian, I like that. So you guys had E-Girl and you had Alt-Girl, and I just said his friends. I forgot to mention
the 3 stages.
What would be the third way to describe the two characters in this? Gamer girl.
Yeah, I guess so.
We'll say a gamer girl. Yeah.
First person to find the egg I've hidden somewhere inside the oasis will inherit my stock in gregarious games, currently valued in excess of $500 billion worth, and total control of the oasis itself.
Antoine swiped our AI engine to use in his dumb shooter.
Did he, Millie? Because honestly, I'm not so sure. Our game was complex and beautiful and interesting and Free City. It may be popular, but it's so idiotic. It makes me want to cry.
Stop defending him and help me beat his ass.
Millie,
Come on, Keys, he stole from us. And now he's lying about it so he doesn't have to give us the credit and the royalties that we deserve.
Millie.
I found a clue.
So Scrambled pitched this matchup. Now I want to hear what they were thinking when they did so.
Okay, so the reason why I specifically requested Ready Player One versus Free Guy is because I think it's important that whenever you cover a director's filmography, you should cover all the parts, like warts and all. Like, it's good to like touch on all the hits, but the hits are only hits if there are also non-hits, you know? Like, I could have talked about movies by Spielberg that I really like Catch Me If You Can, The Terminal. I really like AI Artificial Intelligence. I really like The Adventures of Tintin. But I feel like Ready Player One is a good note to touch on because it's by far his least, his most turn off your brain movie, you know? And like, it does land in this very interesting era of his career because the entire 2010s era of Spielberg is just very interesting because it falls into either two camps. You've got the Oscar baity kind of sentimental dramas like War Horse, Bridge of Spies, Lincoln, or The Post, and then you've got the 3D motion capture blockbusters like Tintin, the BFG, or, as we're talking today, Ready Player One. And I know that a little part of me dies inside of looping in Tintin with BFG and Ready Player One because Tintin is an actually good movie.
That's, yeah, it's so. And Tristan, you said that Ready Player One is also, it was at one point one of your lowest rated Spielberg movies. You guys really not like either of these movies? Let's just say it outright. How are we? What's the vibe in the room right now?
So the vibe in the room is this: we got proposed this matchup, and there was a lot of hemming and hawing on my part, and I was like, maybe we should do something different, something better. But eventually, it made sense to me that we would do this, and I've circled around Free Guy for the past 5 years, and like, I know eventually I was gonna have to watch it, so I was like, I might as well just get it out of the way for the podcast. I watched Free Guy first. I didn't think it was as bad as I had been making it out to be in my head. I actually kind of enjoyed it a little bit. And then I watched Ready Player One, rewatched it, and actually thought it was pretty decent. So I will say that going into this matchup, I was very skeptical of the quality of the films, and I was like, I don't even know how I would pick which one I would prefer because I feel like I hate them both. And now having watched them, I'm like, I don't know which one to pick because I think they're both pretty decent films. So I'm very curious. I think my pick is going to come down to how well we talk about these two films and which ideas I think are sticking in my head a little bit more.
So do these films have ideas that are anybody else or like of their own, or do they only regurgitate what we already know? I think this is the big criticism leveled against these two movies, especially Ready Player One, because it is a smorgasbord. But the third act of Free Guy also includes a scene that has a lot of really ham-fisted cameos of IP, not even characters from other IP, just like Captain America's shield and a lightsaber.
Yeah.
And
you say ham-fisted, but it's more like Hulk-fisted, Jeff.
Okay, nice.
My theory, I have no basis of this. This is purely speculation. but my theory is that towards the end of production of making Free Guy, they found out that Fox was being bought by Disney, and they went, oh my gosh, we can do a Ready Player One. And so they just put the lightsaber and Captain America's shield in like the last few scenes.
Scrambled, your theory is true. Your theory is actually, it's that they wrote a version of the script where they put in as many references as they wanted and then didn't realize that they would get to do all of them. They were like, well, maybe we'll get to use a lightsaber. Maybe we'll get to do Captain America's shield. And Chris Evans was like around for like Good Morning America or something. He was like in town and they were like, well, we'll shoot a scene of you in 15 minutes. Just show up and say, what the shit? And then leave. And he's like, okay, cool. So they got that. They got everything they wanted. These movies really hinge on the concept of creative play. Do you guys know much about this concept? It's a very broad thing, but I read a little bit about it when I wrote a paper on copyright infringement in film specifically. And creative play is the idea that it's a thing that's inherent in everybody, in every human. It's a essence of humanity that we all share. And it's that when you watch something, you watch a film, a TV show, read a book, you want to engage with it and take part of it for yourself. And the concept of creative play basically says this is a natural part of humanity. Like, we should allow this. The fans should be able to take some ownership and acknowledge that it's not made for them specifically, but it's made for everybody. And it's basically a celebration of fandom, a celebration of pop culture. Now, these movies do that. They do it in a fun way. I think my favorite parts of like Free Guy, for example, I actually think the first act is really good. I think it's really well written. I like the sight gags in it. I like the set design, if it even is a real set. Probably a lot of it's digital, but I mean, Tristan, you and I have talked about Cherry last year and the set design of that, which was just bad. But Free Guy is consistent. There is always like the simplicity of the signs: bank, coffee shop, like they're across the board. And then you put on the glasses and you get all the details. Like you get all the missions, all the shiny coins, XYZ. I think Free Guy does that stuff really well. I think Ready Player One, when you enter the Oasis, it turns into an animated movie. And it's not supposed to be photorealistic. I think it works for the context of this story. Now, when it comes to, I think the question we need to ask ourselves when we're talking about these two movies is, how much can you lean on other people's ideas to propel your own story forward without it becoming fan fiction or something even worse? Like how specifically can you incorporate the Iron Giant into Ready Player One before it goes from creative play to
contradiction,
copyright? Yeah, or contradict. I mean, creative play can be contradicting, sure, but it's like, this is not a fan fiction. This is a studio-backed film that cost $175 million and made $600 some million. So is it adding value or is it lazy? What do we think?
Well, I don't think that either of these movies are necessarily bound by pop culture references. Like, I feel like either of these movies could have a version in an alternate universe that has no pop culture references at all, except for like one specific like third act plot point in Ready Player One. But as like general stories themselves, I think they can stand on their own. It's just they decided to put pop culture references in them as kind of like member berries, you know, to just kind of like entice audiences and just make them do that. The pointing, like the Leo pointing meme.
Well, it's funny. I like what you're saying about creative play and everything, because I wrote in my notes, I was like, while I was watching Ready Player One, I was like, is this a reclamation of pop culture rather than just like a bastardization or like a weird kind of, I don't know, like a pig rolling in the mud kind of thing? It felt like there was a playfulness to it in Ready Player One that I was mostly on board with. There are obviously moments in it, and I mentioned the contradiction thing with Iron Giant specifically, where it's like, okay, what if this is like a film that dares to ask, what if he is just a gun, right? He shows up on a battlefield and starts shooting a bunch of people, and he's going to fight Mecha Godzilla. But at the end of the Iron Giant segment, he actually bridges a gap between two, like a crevice, so that people can cross it. So he's like doing more than just being a gun at the end too. So I'm like, okay, so maybe it is it's kind of dabbling a little bit in like, what if we just had him be a Gundam monster or whatever, but also what if he helps people? So I like that. And I was thinking about that in context with Free Guy, which has that moment at the end of the film, which is like the viral moment. It's the moment that it's the only scene that I had seen from the film before watching it, where he pulls out the Captain America shield and he pulls out a lightsaber, and Chris Evans says, "What the shit?" And there's Twitch streamers reacting to everything. And for me, that's like the worst moment in the film, because it feels like it contradicts a lot of what Free Guy is actually going for, which is that it's about a guy who's trying to break the mold. He exists in a Grand Theft Auto style universe where heroism is robbing banks and completing violent missions. And his way of getting out of the Matrix, which is basically what he's in, he even gets like hunted by 2 agents from the real world. His version of getting out of the Matrix is to be a good guy. And it made me think of that phrase, Jeff, which I think we've talked about a little bit on this show, ludonarrative dissonance. Like the idea of you have a set script in a video game, and the way to get to your thematic ending is dissonant with the actual ending itself. So if you have a video game where the lesson is don't kill people, it's bad to kill people, but you have to get to that ending by killing a bunch of people and you get rewarded for it, you have an example of ludonarrative dissonance. I feel like, for the most part, Free Guy is pretty harmonious with itself until it gets to a scene like the one with all the cameos. And I'm like, it really distracts from the idea that we're trying to break out of the iterative pop culture cycle that Taika Waititi's character kind of represents. He's like, we don't need to, we're doing sequels and IP and all this stuff. I can't do a New Zealand accent. It really feels like it contradicts that idea. And
it does.
I like that the scene ends with him like giving self-awareness to Dude, who is like his jacked himbo
incomplete
alter ego
version. Yeah.
Right. I do like the idea that he like gives him self-awareness. So he's not like punching him to death or anything like that, or winning him over with IP and stuff like that. Ultimately, the solution is to give him self-awareness, but it does indulge a little bit in a way that I was like, you're better than this movie. You don't have to do this.
Even though the big references people remember in the third act, really the biggest pop culture references are the YouTubers and Twitch streamers. And I'll tell you something, it is very jarring to have a big budget blockbuster movie with a third act where it just cuts to Jacksepticeye telling the character to get up. Like imagine if every movie had that. Like Empire Strikes Back, Luke is about to be told like he's like Darth Vader's son, and Jacksepticeye just shows up and goes, "No, he's not his son."
Yeah, that's. Oh man, yeah. If anybody wants to watch that kind of movie, go watch Baby Invasion, because it's exactly that kind of movie.
We call this Pure O2. This is the first of our planned upgrades. Once we can roll back some of Holiday's ad restrictions, we estimate we can sell up to 80% of an individual's visual field before inducing seizures. So picture this.
All of this implies we win the contest.
Indeed it does.
IPs and sequels. That is the thing that people want. Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
You love Kentucky Fried Chicken, right?
No.
If you love Kentucky Fried Chicken, and I made Kentucky Fried Chicken, and I know that you love Kentucky Fried Chicken, why would I make another restaurant called, I don't know, Albuquerque Boiled Turkey? Okay? Makes no sense, homie.
No sense.
What am I going to give you? A sequel. Kentucky Fried Chicken, Part 2.
Yum.
To go off of what you're saying, Tristan, it's almost like a to go off of what you're saying, Scrambled, Free Guy almost becomes like a commentary on how we're watching movies now in that third act. Almost. I don't think I want to give it fully that credit, because it is more so Tristan saying we need to let go, be original, be creative. Ready Player One is sort of like a reckoning. It's like, we can't get out of pop culture, and we revere it too. Like the Oasis was designed by Mark Rylance's character, James Halliday, and he is like Jesus now. He left behind all this scripture, all of these hints for us to interpret it and find the meaning, because there is definitively meaning. There is an egg that exists that we can find. And they do it by embracing pop culture. They do it by like, it would be like getting tattoos of your favorite characters on your body, which there's nothing against. So both of these movies do, in a way, embrace pop culture, but it feels like that's sort of the thesis of Ready Player One versus Free Guy, which is that we need to focus on original ideas as well, I guess.
Well, the ending of Free Guy is that they discover so the whole thing with the Free City is that it is a video game that is built off of the back of Jodie Comer and Joe Keery's characters, like code for a game that they designed called Life Itself. I think the game is called Life Itself.
Yeah.
So Taika Waititi is hiding, quote unquote, life itself within the code of Free City, and they have to find this code to prove that he has stolen their IP and like used it illegally, which is kind of boring. Like I like all that whole thing where it's like we have to prove to the courts that he violated the contract. I'm like, okay. So they do that, and then ultimately generate their own utopia out of life itself. Very thematic, right?
And an AI engine. That is essential.
Yeah,
that is essential.
True.
One thing I want to bring up is I think this was the last movie that came out before artificial intelligence stopped being fiction.
Yes.
Like, only like 2 years after this, there was the big AI boom, and all of a sudden it wasn't like just a sci-fi trope. It was a real thing. So this is really like a good snapshot of what things looked like right before it stopped becoming just an idea.
It's a more optimistic view of like what AI can be. It'll generate like an artificial intelligence that teaches us something about ourselves, right? It's like a mirror of ourselves. We need to stop following the script and start being nice to others, that sort of thing. So it sort of teaches us a lesson. Yeah, you're right. No, this is like a year or two before ChatGPT and all that stuff becomes the thing. Do you guys remember like, was it like Sora AI that was like, you could type in like a paragraph and it would generate the most ungodly image you've ever seen in your entire life.
Yeah.
And now we have, stuff that, I mean, I watch the local news and there's AI commercials and they look pretty good, like good enough to fool, like, I think it would fool like my mom, and it won't be long until it starts to fool like our generation too,
Sure.
for nefarious purposes. But no, Free Guy is all about like, there's a liberation in this AI.
Sure, yeah, because a piece of ourselves is reflected in our code. It really treats Guy like he's alive. They say he's like the first instance of artificial life. We have to save him. We have to protect him, it feels very naive in 2026. And we record these episodes a few weeks in advance, but this past week, A24 entered some partnership with Google to incorporate AI software in its filmmaking processes. I left my job a little over a year ago, and when I did, I worked for a video production company, and they were just starting to incorporate AI into their processes. And that makes sense in a corporate setting more so than a film and art setting. But look at these movies. They're both anti-establishment, they're anti-corporation, but they come from two massive Hollywood studios that threw over $100 million at them. So there's that ludonarrative dissonance again, Tristan, I think, if I'm using that term correctly. Like, these movies are just intrinsically contradictions.
Yeah.
So
you have to just sort of get over them. Like, that's sort of like what the films are like. Yeah, we know we're doing it, but you just have to get over it. I think with something like Ready Player One, Jeff, you were like, it sort of revels in it a little bit. And you almost have to respect that because it's just like, it knows what it is. Like, there's a self-awareness there. Whereas there's sort of a pretentiousness about Free Guy, which is not a word that you would usually ascribe to a film like Free Guy. But the idea that it's trying to do something different is, it's almost laughable because it does follow the same sort of beats and formulas we're familiar with. Also, is this film Barbie for guys? Has anybody ever I'm sure that comparison has been made a million times.
Listen, I don't know if saying that we should take points away from Free Guy for trying to do something different when I think Spielberg stumbles because he's doing a very trite narrative at the center of Ready Player One. That's oddly where the originality is supposed to be in Ready Player One, is the characters who are using all of the familiar things for their own story. And their own story is the most cookie cutter anti-establishment narrative you could have, right?
No, it is. It is for sure. It's like a hero's journey, basically. I think it's interesting that Parzival, like, he's just a computer, basically. He's a library. He, instead of like being like Luke Skywalker and like having the Force and being skilled to do a certain thing, the only thing he's good at is that he knows pop culture better than anybody else. So that's the subversion, I guess, at the core of Ready Player One. It's the idea that you do your homework literally, and you're fit to inherit paradise spaces, basically. It's kind of it's very strange. I think it's a very strange idea.
But paradise is achievable in VR or the digital world or gaming or an escape from reality. They're sort of weirdly pro to a degree escapist movies. I mean, they at the end of Ready Player One, they shut the Oasis down 2 days a week, and that solves that. That's your easy solution right there. Now, it is a solution. It's definitely a more complex ecosystem that exists in this dystopic world of Ready Player One, but that is the solution they present. I want to talk a little bit about this meta commentary at the center of Ready Player One, because I read reviews from film critic David Ehrlich, who writes for IndieWire, and he talked about this idea that Spielberg is commenting on himself. He's looking at his legacy,
Yes.
all the way he changed film and blockbuster. Scrambled, you could probably shed some light on this, that the novel Ready Player One is less concerned with film references than the film Ready Player One is, I would assume.
I mean, I don't really remember much of it because I just read it for like a couple months when I was 12, which is like more than basically an entire decade ago. So I haven't read the book in a decade, but I do kind of remember it more focused on a little bit more world building than the pop culture.
That makes sense. And then Ehrlich points out in his review of Ready Player One, he's like, I can't imagine any of these characters watching The Shining or watching Back to the Future. Like they actually going at like sitting down, watching a movie and appreciating it in the way that the writers who wrote these characters do. That just doesn't seem to exist in this world. But again, like people quote Bible verses all the time. How many of those people have read the Bible? And there is a very direct parallel between pop culture and biblical scripture in Ready Player One. It's important. I just don't know. Maybe the contradiction is important for the same reason, honestly.
I think so. I don't know. Like, you imagine in the same way we have like TV dinners, which are just like easy versions of making a full dinner. Like, you imagine there would be like a TV dinner version of like The Shining for a character like Wade. What's his last name? It's not Wade Wilson. That's a dead.
It's Wade Watts.
Wade Watts. Again, he has a superhero name or whatever. You imagine that there's like some easy way for them to ingest all this information. Although you're right, Jeff, we never do see them actually ingest it. We don't see it. Like, Wade has that moment where he's out in the real world with Samantha. They're sitting on top of a building and he's like, it's so slow. Like, everything like moves so slowly out here. And again, that takes me back to what you just said about The Shining. Like, the idea of him sitting down and watching a movie like The Shining, which is a very deliberately paced film. It takes its time. Stanley Kubrick, I mean, like, watch 2001: A Space Odyssey. Like, the guy is from an entire different world than what exists in the Oasis. And if he thinks real life sitting there talking to a girl he likes is slow, he should watch, the scene of the ship docking in 2001: A Space Odyssey. Because it's just, there is that tension there, that contradiction there that doesn't make any sense. But you just, again, it's a film which just like you have to revel in it. You just have to accept that somehow, because it was so important to him to know this stuff, that he does know it.
It's like he watched it in TikTok clips or something.
He
like
watched
that.
it in TikTok clip, which is funny. Free Guy has like TikTok songs in it. Like,
Well,
even though it doesn't move at the same rap, like I don't think it's as fast paced as Ready Player One, but it does have like a TikTok-y kind of vibe to it.
I love you, Millie. Maybe that is my programming talking, but guess what? Someone wrote that program. I'm just a love letter to you. Somewhere out there is the author.
The third thing we did wasn't as popular. We closed the Oasis on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I know it sounds like a weird move, but people need to spend more time in the real world. Because, like Halliday said, reality is the only thing that's real.
I think weirdly Free Guy has its finger on the pulse more so than Ready Player One does. And we talked about Spielberg's sort of disconnection from chronic online behavior in our Disclosure Day episode, but the whole idea, like what does Ben Mendelsohn's character want to do in Ready Player One? He wants to take over the Oasis so that 80% of your view can be ads. So, and that's only mentioned once. Really, you don't want him to win because he doesn't care about pop culture in the way that our heroes do. But his goal is ads, which is like, that feels old compared to the goal of AI, which is much more pressing now. They've been a punching bag forever. I wrote a Letterboxd review that you commented on Scrambled, surprised that gas station pumps in America advertise to you while you're pumping gas. And they do. They pump the gas slower so that you have to sit there and listen to the ads while you do it. And you cannot mute them. You cannot pause them. They just play. This has been prevalent in America forever. So I guess there's a weird sort of timelessness to that aspect of Ready Player One, which is also obsessed with the 80s, which is the decade that's the pop culture decade, I guess. Or at least
that's
the one
when we sold out.
Right, yeah. Versus Free Guy, which is more about AI, more about something but that became, right after it came out, much more pressing of a concern, an actual concern. And you're right, Tristan, Free Guy is a lot more optimistic about AI than things would be in real life, but at the same time, studios are very excited about AI. So there could be something cynical about a movie that's ready to embrace it as a tool, whereas it can be used as a tool, but AI is a lot more complicated than that.
Well, yeah, I mean, in Free Guy, the AI is there to overthrow corporate power. There's this phrase that you hear in like online discourse a lot, especially in like fandom communities, which is "let the fans write." And the phrase has been mocked a lot since it became kind of popular, but that idea I think is really prevalent in Ready Player One because there is a very strong gatekeeping kind of mentality to Ready Player One. I think there's a strong like gatekeeping mentality to like the gamer community as a whole. Like there are so many ways to clown on somebody for being like a fresh gamer. You call them like a noob, like a casual, a scrub. You know, like there are so many ways to like denote that somebody is not serious in the way that you are about a film or about a game, whatever. And I think Ready Player One is really tapping into that idea. Ben Mendelsohn is a poser. He's a pretender. And that's his problem. It's not necessarily the monetization thing, although I do think that that's probably there a little bit. The bigger issue is that he doesn't care enough. And so, and the way that Ready Player One functions as a reclamation of pop culture is the idea that this pop culture should belong to the fans because they actually care. And if there was some way to give it back to the fans without, I guess, I don't know, corporate power, without corporate power being loosened completely, you might have a solution. I don't know.
So it's like letting Dave Filoni take over Star Wars, huh?
Yeah, it's like, put the cowboy hat on and versus like the egalitarian utopia at the end of Free Guy. It's like we're all equal here in free, like it's truly a free city now. Although that has its own problems because like his friend takes off his belt and gun at the end and drops it on the street and they just walk away. And I was thinking in the back of my head, I was like, whose job is it to clean up the belt and gun that are now in the streets of Free Guy? Like, how does this society actually work? Like, there's more of a fantasy element to Free Guy, whereas I feel like Ready Player One is like there's like the tension there that it's actually wrestling with.
That you said there was a fantasy element which relates to the Mariah Carey song that's plastered all over Free Guy for some reason. I mean, I don't blame them. It is a really good song. It's just, I've never seen a single movie before try and hammer in a single pop song before as much as Free Guy.
It's the TikTok thing about it, I feel like. I don't know, it's like we have to all these clips, like these sound clips and like these viral moments, like the Captain America moment and all this stuff. Like that's where Free Guy is more like a formal cynicism to it that I feel like is not as reflected in Ready Player One, which has more of like the cynicism is just baked in, where it's just like, yeah, it's a story about how if you know the most pop culture, you're worthy of inheriting the earth, basically. But like on a formal level, I feel like Ready Player One is doing some more exciting things, probably because it's Spielberg and he's a virtuoso at directing.
Yeah, like undoubtedly Ready Player One is the better looking movie.
You think? So?
I think so. Because like the CGI in both of these movies is pretty not very good. But I think like at least in the real world scenes of Ready Player One, it does look pretty all right. Like there are scenes at like the IOI headquarters that kind of remind me of Minority Report, and the way the camera moves is, I feel like, good in like classic Spielberg. Steven Spielberg is a better director than Sean Levy. What can I say?
Oh yeah,
that's fair. That's fair.
I mean, the CGI is not meant to look real in most of these movies, and I think it nails the aesthetic of video game. Like I said, I really enjoy the production design of Free Guy. It feels very clinical, very clean when you're in the video game world. You also have that scene in Ready Player One where they're pretending that Ben Mendelsohn's character is in the real world so they can hold him at gunpoint, but he's not in the real world. But all of a sudden it looks completely realistic. If you get hung up on the logic that it doesn't make any sense at all because people are like floating in zero gravity in Ready Player One, but they in reality have a headset on where they can still feel the ground and everything. So it's like, doesn't make any sense. It's not supposed to make any sense. So like, why, like how much are we trying to get out of these movies? Like, why, Tristan, are you saying Ready Player One is doing more exciting things than Free Guy? Is it just...
I think it comes down just to the direction of the film. You have some classic kind of Spielberg direction, even though it is a lot of digital camera work. It's like Scrambled was saying, the stuff outside the Oasis, I think looks pretty good. I think Spielberg has a better knack of tapping into emotions than Sean Levy. And I think that all comes through in his directorial work. I think these are some thoughts that are reflected, Jeff, in our view of Disclosure Day. Like, there are a lot of contradictions at the heart of that film, especially when you think about them. And a lot of those faults you could lay at the feet of the script or the script writer, whether that's David Koepp or Ernest Cline. But I think when it comes down to Spielberg himself, he's got a pretty good handle on the formalism. Now, again, I guess we could go back to Saving Private Ryan, which had its own contradictions. And who do you blame for that except for probably Steven Spielberg? So maybe that's just part of it. Maybe that's something that I'm kind of learning with Spielberg Summer, is kind of learning to just roll with the punches with Spielberg and recognize that he's got a lot of ideas bouncing around in that old noggin, and not all of them gel together.
That's so funny because the matchup this actually reminds me the most of is the Batman v Superman episode, because of the relentless optimism of Free Guy versus like taking on complexity and not cleaning it up and tying a nice neat bow around it in Ready Player One. Although they kind of do that at the end of Ready Player One. It's an easy solution as long as it's in the hands of the right people. Dave Filoni. Then the Oasis is indeed the exact utopia that it was designed to be.
Oh my God.
Versus Free Guy, which is like, you go back to that the inherent contradiction in both of these movies. It's alleviated for me when a movie is so relentlessly optimistic that it becomes a fantasy. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not even supposed to believe that this is possible. This is just a movie that I'm watching that doesn't have any solutions. It's just kind of saying, wouldn't this be nice? Like,
Well,
that's
yeah,
what I get from it.
it curbs a lot of like the heightened sugary sweet fantasy with like the human element in both stories, because both these films have Joe Keery falling in love with Jodie Comer in Free Guy, which is like this, that's like the heart of the story, even though you have Ryan Reynolds doing his, chimichanga thing. And so the end of the film is the beat that it ends on is them actually meeting on the street and kissing. And I feel like that kind of softens the whole, it's this utopia and blah, 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 and everything works out perfectly. No, obviously you haven't defeated the corporate culture that Taika Waititi represents. One guy got arrested, right? Or I don't even know if he did get arrested.
No, it took an L. They said, just keep our artificial intelligence alive and we won't sue you. But his game bombs because he just has the wrong mentality. He's got the let's sequelize it, let's reboot it.
It's the free market, man. The free market decided that they win this time. So as long as you get the free market on your side, you're good. Versus like Ready Player One, which is like, yeah, you're right. Like in the hands of the right guy, Dave Filoni, then everything will be all right. But that's not really the moment that it ends on. It's more just like Tuesdays and Thursdays, we all got to hang out in the real world, and I'm going to kiss my girlfriend on this swiveling chair, and that's the beat you in.
Yeah, those are Wade's days, Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Yeah, both of these movies seem to acknowledge like the harm that capitalism can do, but aren't actually directly addressing how to like completely dismantle and restructure the system. They have way too much faith in the system to like completely dissolve it. They're just like, well, the system works just fine. We just need the right guys to run it.
Yes, it's all about who's in charge, but they're also like pro-union because the NPCs unionize in Free Guy and the players unionize in Ready Player One, which is like, again, that's just a fantasy thing. Being a West Virginian, that's just a fantasy thing that the unions win, isn't it?
I've got two things. Capitalism will always find a way to like commodify critiques of itself. It's just like one of its defensive mechanisms. It gets absorbed into the blob that is capitalism. That's thought number one. So, if you're expecting this to be like a revolutionary film, I don't think it's not going to happen. Not when it's being produced by, I don't know, Warner Brothers or Disney or Fox, whoever, these films are coming out of. Thought number two is, I'm glad you guys mentioned the strike, because as I was watching Free Guy and I was thinking about like, oh, this is like sort of like, this could be a radical film. Like the way it's made and everything, it could be a radical film. It's about this guy who achieves consciousness. You could look at that as like a moral consciousness, a class consciousness, whatever, because he is a lower class citizen basically. And he gets all of his fellow citizens to uprise with him and eventually strike out. And I was thinking of the Eisenstein film Strike, which is like a 1920s like Soviet montage film, which is experimental and exciting, and there are no like real main characters. Like it's about a society like striking out. And I was like, imagine if Free Guy was like a 1920s Soviet experimental film. This film would be so much better. And that's my issue. Like where I'm like, formally, I feel like it's not as subversive as it could be, because it is very much following that exceptional individual leads the masses. He's like the Moses of the story kind of thing. And I'm like, we've seen it a million times. We see it in our cinema all the time about a superhero who rises up and leads people away rather than empowering others to truly lead themselves. And so I think that's my issue.
Yeah, but he empowers the bombshell to write a book about feminist stereotypes, and he empowers the barista to make a cappuccino instead of just black coffee.
But we don't follow those characters, and it's not about them really. It's more just about it's more about Free Guy freeing other guys.
So
like that.
So you just want to play life itself, is what you're saying.
Jeff, I'm playing it right now. I'm living it, man. No, I think, Yeah, I mean, like GTA is all about how you're the main character in a city full of NPCs, and you're gonna wreck shit. And the problem isn't necessarily that you're wrecking shit, although that is a problem. The other problem is you're in a town full of NPCs, and you think you're the only person who matters. And that's not like Free Guy is not about how the other NPCs don't matter compared to Guy, but the filmmaking language, that's sort of what's being communicated. If this were like a truly egalitarian film or whatever about like consciousness and everything, it would follow all these different characters in a way that felt like it wasn't just about Free Guy. It would be called Free Guys. They do the aliens thing. Like there would be, look at all the free guys here in my city. There wouldn't just be one Ryan Reynolds.
There is a nice relationship between him and his buddy, played by Lil Rel Howery. They like, but you're right. I mean, from a filmmaking standpoint, no, but also from a filmmaking standpoint, I mean, Spielberg just centers on Ty Sheridan's character for all of his. I just don't like neither of these movies are like radical. Neither are subversive.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, and Ready Player One isn't trying to be subversive. Like, you're right. The end of the film is, yeah, this guy inherited the earth, and you all just have to kind of deal with it because he knows more than you do. So Ready Player One, like you're saying, it revels in that. It revels in those contradictions. It's not trying to be an egalitarian film. That's not the message. The message is it's a reclamation of pop culture. I think it's trying to take it back from Ben Mendelsohn, the posers, Jeff.
Yeah, the posers.
We should have our right to reference shitty 80 movies, not these big wigs. Only 80s movies, because as we all know, that's the only decade that matters.
Do you think Steven Spielberg would watch like Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, and be like, okay, maybe there's a reason we have IP laws and copyright, and maybe we shouldn't let the fans write?
One thing I do want to know is, does Steven Spielberg even know most of the things that are being referenced in Ready Player One? Does he know what Overwatch is? Does he know what Minecraft is?
Spielberg, well, he doesn't have a writing credit on Ready Player One, which I think is interesting because I do think there's a lot of similarities between this movie and Disclosure Day. And I think sort of some of the critiques of it being a commentary on Spielberg's legacy have a little bit less weight when I know he didn't directly contribute to the script. But I don't know. It does. There's stuff that's impossible to ignore in its meta reflection. I think there is a lot. There's not a lot under the surface of Ready Player One, but if you want to find something in it, like it's all there for you to dig into, I guess. It just depends on how much you want to read into the subtext, I suppose.
There's one pet peeve I want to touch on with Ready Player One. So James Halliday has been dead for 5 years by the time the movie starts, and no one has found the first key. Turns out the first key is going backwards in the big race. And I want to know, how the hell did it take 5 years for people to figure that out? Like, whenever you're playing a video game and looking for secrets, the first thing you do is go backwards at the start of a level. Every video game does that. Why did it take 5 years for people to figure that out?
Yeah,
well, there was a wall. There was a wall behind them, Scrambled.
You have to go. Well, it's pedal to the metal. You got to do it as fast as you can, right? That's
like what is that? Hogwarts, the platform 9 3/4.
Yeah, I guess.
Like go through the wall. Is that what you're saying?
Let's see if this movie was concerned with making anything more than just 80s references, then maybe Halliday would have made a Harry Potter reference to 9 3/4 instead of just being like pedal to the metal. Yeah, that's cool.
And then he'd immediately remove it as soon as J.K. Rowling goes insane.
Yeah. Again, it's like if you want to read into the physics or how any of these worlds actually operate, like is Tuesdays and Thursdays shutting down the Oasis going to kill like the awful pollution that the corporation is creating in the world? Like it doesn't really matter. It's just the arc is complete.
It's a step because Mark Rylance's character has like that line where he's like, "Can we just go backwards for once?" And like it feels like in a way we've been going backwards in like a negative way for a long time. But also I kind of get like what he means, like the quaintness maybe of like the olden days, maybe like the more, I don't know, like we're more jaded now, right? Like I feel like we can't even trust the images that we see online. And so like I kind of like after watching Disclosure Day, honestly, like I'm a little more sympathetic to the can't we go backwards mentality of Ready Player One. Because like going backwards in that universe also means, okay, there's a couple days a week where we're not living in a virtual reality. We have to actually contend with the world that we live in itself. And I guess the idea behind days off from the Oasis is that you think a little bit more about the real world and maybe you can start solving things like pollution or like stacks of trailers on top of one another that are incredibly prone to falling over at any moment. I mean, like, I think that's sort of the idea. It's like a piecemeal kind of, we're going to eventually outgrow the stage that we're in.
Also, that's another thing that doesn't make sense. Why is it that, like, in this future, because the Oasis is so popular, everyone decides to move to Ohio because it's where the founder lives? Like, when World of Warcraft became really popular, people just didn't move to where Blizzard headquarters were located because they just really liked World of Warcraft.
It's a pilgrimage.
There's a thread you could pull on in terms of the fact that IOI has headquarters there as well, and they're basically, like, all people who work for IOI, a bunch of them are indentured servants, or they're literally slaves. They're in cells. They have debts that they can't pay to the company, so they're forced to work in the game searching for the Easter eggs. That's interesting. Maybe a lot of people in Ohio are ex-IOI employees that just, you had everything taken from them and live in the slums of Columbus now because they can't afford to go anywhere else. But that's a maybe. We don't know. It doesn't. The world in Ready Player One is interesting. It's very interesting, but again, it collapses when you like start digging into it, I think.
Do you think maybe our world, Jeff, collapses if you start thinking about it too much?
Yeah, something like that.
Something that came to mind, maybe it's just because I binged through the whole series recently, but Free Guy is kind of like the Amazing Digital Circus if it was made by Marvel writers.
I agree with you, Scrambled, especially having seen the finale and the way that Free Guy ends. Spoilers for that, but like this sort of eternity where you exist in a world where everything is like exactly what you want it to be. Like there is a utopic ending to both of those.
Yeah.
So I was getting that from it too. Yeah, I think it's just it's very Sisyphus, which was prominent around the time, but
he's a guy. He pushes rocks.
The gods punished him. I'll
let you know.
Our Sisyphus reference will never die, just like the man himself. Here we are pushing a rock up a hill every week when we go to this theater, only to be confronted by the hard-ticket conundrum of having to choose one over the other. We have once again made it to the top of the hill, and we're about to be knocked back down, but before so, it's time to choose. Tristan, I stole your segment, but I'll give it right back to you. Who do you want to ask first?
Scrambled. I'm curious to know which one you're going to pick here. I genuinely have no clue.
Okay, so I gave both of these movies a 5 out of 10. These are both thoroughly mediocre blockbusters that are set in video games but don't really have like an in-depth understanding of how video games work. But honestly, if I think I had to choose one to rewatch again, I would choose Free Guy. And maybe that's because it's a comedy. The world isn't as like in depth. The references aren't as gratuitous. But it's like Free Guy just feels a lot more casual, while Ready Player One feels like an investment. You know, it's like it's supposed to make you feel immersed in a world and supposed to be barraging you with references, while Free Guy is more like it's more focused on being a comedy set in a video game. So, and that's a lot more like light and casual. So I'd probably go with Free Guy, at least at this current moment. But honestly, it could go either way because both of these movies are a similar level of quality.
I think that's fair. Yeah, generally overall, Ready Player One gets the critical edge over Free Guy. It's got like higher scores on both IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes, and Letterboxd. Actually, not Rotten Tomatoes. Free Guy, which is probably a safer movie, has a higher score there, which is kind of what Tomatoes is good at gauging. So, Tristan, I assume I'm next?
Jeff, you're always next.
I am giving my hard ticket to Free Guy as well. And it was legitimately something I was going back and forth about. But you know why? There's a really simple reason why I'm giving it to Free Guy. And it's because it literally just made me laugh. It legitimately made me laugh out loud. And part of that goes to Ryan Reynolds' performance. I'm not really a Ryan Reynolds fan, but his performance here, I think, worked for the character. It's not a deep movie. In fact, if you look at its themes on AI, it is sort of a time capsule, which limits the harm it can do. Yeah, obviously, we were not liberated or led to some paradise through our investment into AI, but maybe if we look back at this movie and its idea that we could be, there is something we can resituate ourselves with. Ready Player One, I did have a genuinely good time revisiting. I liked it when it came out, too. I still like it now. There's no way it's going to be my lowest rated Spielberg movie. There's a cynicism to both these movies. There's a weightlessness to both of these movies. Really, this turned out to be a pretty good matchup, in my opinion. So, Tristan, take us home.
Yeah, no, I like what you guys are saying. Free Guy. Ryan Reynolds is kind of like turning around like a Truman Burbank performance, I feel like. In Free Guy, he's got his own, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. He's doing
He's Truman Light.
Smiling through the pain kind of thing. He even crosses an ocean to basically free himself of his facsimile of a universe kind of thing. It is Truman Light, though. I mean, the light is out of his eyes. He's a shell of that. My vote goes to Ready Player One.
Yeah.
Probably, obviously, because I think I had to go back to this feeling of kind of appreciating Steven Spielberg's contradictions, his messiness. I find it very human. I find it gratifying. I like the idea that Ready Player One eschews like the fantasy ending and goes for something a little more grounded. I like its honesty, which is that, yeah, the world is kind of owned by people who have done the work. I mean, there's sort of like a mock meritocratic like element to Ready Player One, where if you do all the homework and all that stuff, you're worthy of owning everything. I think that's a fantasy. I think that's like an American dream kind of thing. And I do kind of, I don't know, I think I'm contradicting myself now, but I do kind of appreciate that sort of angle to it as well. I like that Ben Mendelsohn gets his at the end. Ben Mendelsohn and Taika Waititi are both fun villains in this, though, I would say. Yeah, no, I think that's all I'll say about Ready Player One. I think I underrated it when I watched it last. Not by a lot, but by a little bit. And it has probably gone up a little bit in my Spielberg ranking. And it's not as bad. It's not as bad as I remember. I think Free Guy's kind of pretentious. And I think that it is espousing something that it cannot live up to from a filmmaking perspective. And I think in the hands of a more interesting filmmaker, or even from a studio that wasn't beholden to the shareholders, there might be something kind of interesting with the Free Guy premise. I think you see that in like the Truman Show, So, but I don't think Free Guy lives up to that promise. So that is my hard ticket. I can't believe I'm picking Ready Player One because it was the one that I'd seen beforehand and I knew I didn't like. But
sure, yeah, I am a little surprised as well. I mean, if you're going to compare anything to the Truman Show, you're kind of setting yourself up to be disappointed, I would say.
I mean, I will say this: Ready Player One has the better use of the single F-bomb. Both of these movies use their single F-bomb, and Free Guy just uses it like Ryan Reynolds is just getting up in the morning and he just keeps saying good morning to his goldfish, and then one morning he just says good morning, Goldie. Right. Meanwhile, in Ready Player One, it's the big fight and there's pop culture references. One guy throws out Chucky, and the like guys working for Ben Mendelsohn go, "Oh, it's fucking Chucky," which I think is a better use of your F-bomb.
Okay, I'm gonna disagree because in Free Guy, I laughed out loud when he said, "Good fucking morning, Goldie," and to me, it also served a character purpose to show that he was like straying further from his programming. But I don't know, the delivery of that line was so funny to me. It got me. It really got me. But I do remember the Chucky moment from when Ready Player One was in theaters, and it's been almost 8 years since I saw it. Or actually, it's been more than 8 years since I saw it. So, yeah, you're probably objectively right, but again, it made me laugh. Well, that's going to do it for us on this episode of Hard Ticket Scrambled. Thank you for rejoining us. Thank you for suggesting this matchup, and thank you for suggesting Spielberg Summer.
Yeah.
Would you like to plug anything?
Really, the only thing I want to plug is my Letterboxd account, which is neutral_piss. I was in a very silly mood when I was setting up my Letterboxd account. But yeah, that's basically the only thing I want to plug.
Gotcha. You can follow me on Letterboxd as well at Jeff Blogus, all lowercase, all one word. You can follow the podcast on Instagram and Blue Sky at Hard Ticket Pod, all lowercase, all one word. Tristan, where can people follow you?
Yeah, follow me on Letterboxd, Tristan Moore. You can follow me on Instagram at Tristan__less. Email the podcast, hardticketpodcast@gmail.com. Did Scrambled do a good job? Do you want Scrambled to be back on? Do you want to join the Discord? Do you think this episode sucks and you want us to know? You can email us, you can comment down below, you can subscribe, like, 5 stars on Spotify and Apple. Do
Absolutely. Only 5
Do the
stars.
thing. Only 5.
Only 5.
Only 5, please. Thank you, Jared Tadlock, for designing our brand elements, keeping our podcast looking fresh. Thank you, Aaron Griffin, for mixing and mastering our theme song, sung by yours truly in a truly awful falsetto. Thank you, Dalton Carney, for making our ancillary music that we use for bumpers. Next week, we are taking, as per Spielberg Summer tradition, the week off from Spielberg and actually doing an episode of The Blind Spots. We're going to be covering one of Tristan's, The Hangover.
Hell yeah.
Which is going to be interesting. I have feelings and opinions about The Hangover, so we're definitely going to get into it then. But until then, we'll see you guys at the movies.
Don't have a good day.
Have a great day.
It's a hard ticket at the movies. Which one will you watch? Let's decide. It's a hard